after 5 years, the mentees met and they decided that, I should come out as an aspirant, and that, correlated properly with the work that I'd been doing and the desire that I have for this nation. And so I accepted, and I'm running because that is exactly what I need to be doing at this time. I love Nigeria so much. I want to do my best to ensure that posterity will not accuse me of not doing my best and giving my all to ensure that my dream for Nigeria comes to fruition. But if I'm completely disconnected from the people, then I'll be running my own agenda. I'll be running my dreams. Like the Bible said, you know tell them, you go they talk. Send them, you go there. I say they are speaking out of their own dreams. That is not the way leadership should be. Leadership is not about the person in the position. It's about the people that have vested their confidence, that have vested their trust in the leader. So the leader should forget about themselves. How do you deal with health when you've not addressed environment? How do you deal with environment when you've not addressed security? How do you deal with security and not address agriculture? We have this interconnectedness that needs to be addressed that way. The reason why we are seeing things the way they are is because our policy makers have not the capacity to understand that sometimes there can be solution-generated problems. You are seeking a solution, but that solution is generating a problem. Okay, how much are they renovating National Assembly with the 2022 budget? How realistic is that, for goodness sake, at the situation at which we are in right now? We are the ones paying for it because they are busy spoiling themselves and then tasking us to bring the little we have so that they can be semblance of doing something for us. And so they'll continue to squeeze and squeeze and squeeze us until we have a government that understands that we need to begin to tell those ones on top to make the sacrifice. We need to do it in such a way that a leader emerges from the grassroots, not from those of them that have eaten from the king's meat at his table and drank his wine. They are corrupt. We can't expect them to be the very ones to change this. Someone has to come from amongst us, and that is why I have come out. I'm from amongst us. Let us start from there. Then we can go and change that thing, because we don't belong to them. We are different, and our agenda is different. Our dream and vision is different.
quickly take you to your presidential dream. At what time did you decided that I want to be president of this country, and what kind of courage came over you? I mean, what was the spirit behind this? I mean, for a woman with a very, wonderful stature like yours, I don't want to say big or small stature, but I mean, a very wonderful and a good, high level of enthusiasm, of course, but what propelled that courage to say, I want to rule this country, and why?
I have watched, as you have noticed, that I am of an activist background. As a feminist, I am capable of seeing injustice where it dwells. And as a feminist, it does break my heart to see that people perpetrate injustice with impunity. I was very, very disappointed when we said we are a democracy and a presidential aspirant could not campaign in half of the country. Yet we called that election fair. That election cannot be fair. Because
are you referring to 2015 or 2019?
2015. And that is when I said, no, something has to be done. Of course, as a Christian, I believe in prayer. I believe in spending time with God. So I went repeatedly to God, and I even organized intercessory prayer sessions to say, Father, help us. So this campaign where they happen, so we know what your will is. But the way we human beings are going, we if it make mistake, please, in your mercy, raise us a righteous leader. Raise us a God-fearing leader. One day as we were praying, the Spirit told us that we are praying wrong.
You're praying wrong?
Yes. And the question was, all of you here are pastors. All of you here, some of you are evangelists, elders in the church. Where else are you looking for the righteous leaders from? If you say God-fearing, it's none of you God-fearing.
Can you imagine?
And it was with that interrogation of the Spirit that we now decided, I at least decided to change my prayer point. And my prayer became, Lord, use me. Because I know my place in Christ. I know. So,
Lord, use me.
Lord, use me became my prayer. I even had a chorus that I used to sing along the prayer with, just to make sure the point gets to God. If I talk and you know here, if I sing and you must hear. And that was when God started inspiring me to do a project.
What's the project?
We call it Connecting the Dots, and the objective is to improve political participation, civic responsibility for social change. So the idea was to bring young people and bring women and build capacities, for them on the issues that have to do with political participation, democracy, environmental justice, socio-economic justice, and then gender justice. All of those areas, that have to do with components of our lives. And then exploring how interconnected they are. Because if you don't have security, you can't prosper in your agriculture. If you don't have good education, you cannot, function in decision making and things like that. So I spent 5 years mentoring with some colleagues of mine, young people and women and persons with disabilities, other marginalized populations, to say, let us build our capacity, enter political parties, begin to work in those structures so that we can have credible candidates emerge. Because what we always do is to wait for the candidates and not work on the aspirants to emerge as candidates. We just sit and wait, whoever comes, and then we start complaining, hey, they didn't give us a choice. No, we create that choice by entering the parties and working the work that is necessary for an aspirant. So it was at that point that I sensed that God had a bigger job for me in this domain of democracy. And true to it, after 5 years, the mentees met and they decided that, I should come out as an aspirant, and that, correlated properly with the work that I'd been doing and the desire that I have for this nation. And so I accepted, and I'm running, because that is exactly what I need to be doing at this time. I love Nigeria so much. I want to do my best to ensure that posterity will not accuse me of not doing my best and giving my all to ensure that my dream for Nigeria comes to fruition.
Let me ask you a very funny question. Do you believe that you can become the president eventually?
Make I laugh like Sarah. You know,
then you can get your Isaac if you laugh like Sarah.
You know, exactly, so I got it. You know, one day I had that thought, and it happened at a point of prayer. I have a covenant time. And so when I was spending time in the secret place, you know, I was doing those debates. I'm like, president. Now, wow, this craziness. And God said, yes, so now so it happen, like play. I tell you, I froze. I'm like, what? I mean, that was the first time it really hit me, like you could actually just be in that Asorok. And then all sorts of thoughts start tumbling in. You know, what cabinet are you going to have? What are you going to put in place to make sure that you have that grassroots connectedness? Because our people are totally disconnected from our realities. And when I come from the grassroots background, as you know, a human rights community development worker, I can relate with how easy it is for people to have this polarization between the grassroots and the decision policy making level. And my desire is to ensure that let there be a time that there was a leader in Nigeria whose passion was connectedness with the grassroots. Because that's the only way I can see what they see, I can feel what they feel, and I can put the round pegs in round holes. But if I'm completely disconnected from the people, then I'll be running my own agenda. I'll be running my dreams. Like the Bible said, you know tell them, you go they talk. You know, send them, you go they run. Say they are speaking out of their own dreams. You know, that is not the way leadership should be. Leadership is not about the person in the position. It's about the people that have vested their confidence, that have vested their trust in the leader. So the leader should forget about themselves. It is all about the people now. And that reality, you know, I've had to deal with, to say, yes, this is the way to go. Be a president, and it's not about you. No longer about you, it's about the people.
And talking about manifestos, now you talk about something that is very important that are connected with, you said connectedness with the citizen at the grassroots.
Yes.
And you look at the policies of government these days, they are not citizen-friendly policies, I'm sorry. I want to ask you that how are you going to settle especially the problem of disco boys that are collecting highfalutin prices from people, making life difficult for people. They are bringing 45,000, 42,000 for a 2-bedroom flat. The landlords that are charging arbitrarily, I mean, for a year they're charging 400K. People who have to pay through their nose to stay in a house. They don't even have good health, but they have to pay. The problem of bad policy.
Is there anything you are not paying for in Nigeria?
Overtax. I mean, whereby cost of living is so heavy.
The banks tax you for everything.
You know, unimaginable thing. Anything. Even on the Christmas Day celebration, the disabled, they're online. A lot of insult from all corner of human relation. So how are you going to tackle these citizen-related problems?
The response is to understand how all the different facets of our lives are interconnected. I have had people say, choose one thing and do it, and we will at least know that you did something wrong. How do you deal with health when you've not addressed environment? How do you deal with environment when you've not addressed security? How do you deal with security and not address agriculture? You know, we have this interconnectedness that needs to be addressed that way. The reason why we are seeing things the way they are is because our policy makers have not the capacity to understand that sometimes there can be solution-generated problems. You are seeking a solution, but that solution is generating a problem. The only way you can prevent that from happening is if you have the knowledge and skill in intersectionalities. Then you can know how A connects with B, connects with C, connects with D and E and F and the rest. And therefore you know that if I say, for example, I don't want generators anymore, then I have to think, if we stop generators, how does that affect Nigerians at the grassroots level? The person with the barbing salon, how does he run? How does he make a living? The woman who is grinding pepper in the market, how does she make a living? All those questions will come out. You have a studio, you run the studio, you don't have a generator, how will you do it? So we have to examine these connections. It's not enough to just make a policy. You have to check, how does this policy impact on people? Our leaders are not doing those analyses. They just hear an idea, pam, then they implement it. So they keep tasking us. But that is the wrong thing to do. We are collecting money from people who don't have the money and pampering the people who have the money and overgiving them the money itself. So one thing we need to look at is where internally can we cut down cost so that we can cushion the lives of people and not increase their suffering. When we go to tenants and we are increasing rent, or for example now, they are looking for revenue anyhow. They are not thinking about reducing senators' convoy and the newspaper. How many newspapers they want to read? If you go abroad, you will see a rack at the entrance of the White House building where they have the senators' offices. The newspapers are there. You will carry, you will read, you will return. Another person will come and carry and read and return. Here we are budgeting thousands, even millions for newspaper. Why can't we do the same thing and cut down cost? Why are we giving them clothing allowance, sitting allowance, holiday allowance, leave allowance? Everything has allowance. Why don't we look at those ones and cut them down?
Expensive democracy.
All these padding. Okay, how much are they renovating National Assembly with the 2022 budget? How realistic is that, for goodness sake, at the situation at which we are in right now? We are the ones paying for it. Because they are busy spoiling themselves and then tasking us to bring the little we have so that they can be semblance of doing something for us. And so they'll continue to squeeze and squeeze and squeeze us until we have a government that understands that we need to begin to tell those ones on top to make the sacrifice. And we need to stop all our resourcing going upward. Let us bring the resources downward, because it's a bottom to top approach. The people are more down than they are up.
So Nigeria Republic has the second highest paid federal legislators in the world.
Yes.
Each senators earning around $597,000 per annum in salaries and allowances. This results in a total of 20 billion naira, $65 million per year, and $79 billion or 260 million pounds at the end of each legislative tenure. Given that the members of the Senate are only required to sit for at least 180 days a year, this equates to 1 million naira a day.
Ridiculous, isn't it?
Highly ridiculous.
Highly ridiculous. And we are waiting for them to change the policy for us. We need to do it in such a way that a leader emerges from the grassroots, not from those of them that have eaten from the king's meat at his table and drank his wine. They are corrupt. We can't expect them to be the very ones to change this. Someone has to come from amongst us. And that is why I have come out. I'm from amongst us. Let us start from there. Then we can go and change that thing, because we don't belong to them. We are different. And our agenda is different. Our dream and vision is different. So we have to begin to correct these anomalies. There is nowhere in the world, even the richest countries, most developed countries, where any senator earns this kind of money. In fact, in some countries, they are not even paid. You do it as a volunteer service for the nation. So are you surprised that some forms are costing 100 million?
I was going there, really. I was going to ask you that, can you pay 100 million for a presidential form?
How can I?
We have the 100 million now.
Where will I see it from? But the important thing we have to note is that that 100 million is even the tip of the iceberg, considering how much more the aspirant has to spend. To fill that nomination form, you have to spend money. In my party, for example, it is required that one person from every state in this Nigeria nominates me. How do I get a form across to them? It will cost money. I have to travel from state to state to state. Or I have to bring those people to somewhere where they can sign that nomination. That is cost. Then primaries will come. Delegates, so we know the truth. If you want them to vote for you, transport them to the town, put them in a hotel, give them honorarium. I even understand that some people have started buying cars and giving people they think will be on the delegates list. We have the most expensive and foolish way of running this democracy. It's just corrupt. Until we dismantle what's on ground, until we change those components of the Constitution that have allowed all of these discrepancies and impunity, we are not going to make progress. It will continue to roll in and out. And that is why Peter Obi, a very brilliant economist, was saying that you are asking him to drive a train and the brain box of the train is faulty. How will the train perform? So we need to get people who have the courage to say, this brain box, let us open it. Some people are too afraid. We need to open that box. We need to fix it.
Once and for all.
We need to fix it. We need to fix it. The people who are rogues and thieves who want to steal our money and continue to live fat, we need to let them know that the party is over. Now it is time for people's interest, people's mandate to take over. Enough is enough. Enough is enough.
I want to ask you that when you become the president, what is going to be your three major interests? I mean, I know you have
security.
Okay.
It's very paramount, especially in these times that we're in. And when I say security, it's a holistic thing, because we are looking at insurgency, but we are also looking at ordinary people like you and I, who at the age of 17 can behead a girlfriend's head and cook it so that they will make money. We are talking about a 13-year-old who can go and pluck the eye of another child because he wants to do a charm to be disappearing.
Or your old boy that killed his girlfriend in Lekki area and he was sleeping with her dead body for 6 days.
Oh my.
And until the 7th day, he wanted to use it to make money until
and
they smell the odor.
Anti-rape, and so.
Or a lecturer that is.
Can you believe that we don't have CCTV cameras in this country to monitor what's going on? The fact that the CCTV camera is there will serve as deterrent to a huge percentage of these things, because they know they'll get caught. And they are doing it because they think they will get away with it. If you know you will be caught, why do it? Most of these things would be addressed. We need to re-examine our security apparatus. We need to examine our security system. You don't go and forgive Boko Haram and bring them into the military when we have people, legitimate citizens who have never perpetrated any crime, applying for the same military jobs, and they are not getting. So it is now a reward to people who have sacked communities, slaughtered people, shot people, bombed places. Then they come and say, we lay down arms. Please forgive us. Okay, welcome. Enter our military. That is, very reckless. That is reckless. We need to look at situations like that if we want our security to work. We need to computerize the entire, law enforcement agencies. You go to a police station, you won't see computer there. So when we are saying they should use drone to monitor the forest, where is the database? Is it that hardcover notebook that they will be using to write what the drone is telling them? And there are best practices all over. We can replicate them here. We don't even need to reinvent the wheel. Why are we so intellectually lazy that we cannot do what is right to make the place safe? We also need to look at the component of diplomacy. There are people who are making guns and bullets and all sorts of ammunitions. They are making profits where there is crisis. So what are these nations that are benefiting from our crisis? We need to talk to them. Is there any other business deal we can have with you? There have to be alternatives. Don't give us gun to kill ourselves. Let's look for other business
economic
to
protectionism.
Exactly. So those are the things that we need to look at, you know, when it comes to security. We cannot make progress if this place is not safe. Already people are saying this is a failed state. So what do you do in a failed state? You can't even sleep and wake up. All of us are walking around traumatized psychologically. We cannot be productive. We cannot maximize our potential because we are traumatized people. So we need to handle that sector and handle it well and immediately. And then, of course, there are job opportunities all over the place that need to be harnessed. Agriculture, for example. How do we make it sexy enough for young people? If we keep putting on the picture one old man with a hole in his shoulder with gaps because teeth have fallen off, looking wretched, tattered clothes, that's not the way to promote agri. And that is not even the agriculture of the 21st century. What happened to mechanized farming? What happened to those sophisticated storages? What happened to modern way of transporting agricultural goods from one place to the other? What happened to enhancing the way the products are processed? See the women making gari. Can we make it easier? Can we produce more gari? Gari is wanted all over the world. There are people in London who eat eba. Let's get the gari to them and let's get it to them in quantities large enough for them to eat. All of these can happen.
Cassava economy.
We can do this one and make sure that more people have job opportunities from farming through processing, through preservation, to production. You know, we can do that. And then we can be creating job opportunities for everyone along the way, women and young people especially, who are suffering. Education is the other one that I would want to focus on.
That one has gone so bad.
That ASU can be on strike for weeks and nobody is even talking about it. What impunity?
No, it's not even impunity, it's like an illness, a psychological illness. I mean,
something is really definitely
the leaders
wrong.
are not even thinking about it at all.
And the minister can come out and say he wants to contest and, as a president.
One in Gige, what is his
when
name?
He can't handle ASU strike.
Chris Ngige, that guy, that former governor.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm shocked, I'm embarrassed. And he says he's a doctor or something. He has been in government since.
Let this bill, I am holding a placard and I am protesting openly against an aspirant who is incapable of paying attention to our education system. That person has no place in our democracy. Let this be on record.
I think Chief Chris Ngige will take note of that. I mean, if you cannot make the education sector work, what are you looking for at the presidential level? Sir, why can't you just retire back to Anambra and go and enjoy your retirement? Before we round up on the president, let's really go into what is INCRESE all about, your organization.
International Center for Sexual Reproductive Rights.
Yes, and I see that you have some kind of relationship with the United Nations and some other international agencies. What's it all about? I've seen a lot, but I want you to tell us concise, in a concise, you know.
The organization was founded to bridge the gap between the policies that are articulated at the UN level